Okay, let's jump right into one of the biggest, most challenging questions in theology. Are you responsible for a crime that was committed thousands of years ago in the Garden of Eden? It's a question that gets right to the very heart of sin, justice, and really what it even means to be human.
And that right there is the core of the problem, isn't it? It just feels fundamentally unfair. If we're all born with this fallen nature, this kind of moral brokenness that we never asked for, how can a perfectly just God hold us accountable for it? To even begin to unpack the answers, we need to get clear on a key term first.
So let's be super clear. When theologians talk about original sin, they aren't just talking about the act of eating the forbidden fruit. That's not it. They're talking about the result of that act. This state of corruption that, according to the Bible, has been passed down through all of humanity like a genetic trait.
Scripture is pretty clear that our sinful state goes back to one man's transgression. But the mechanism, the how, well, that's where the debate really lies. So let's break down three of the biggest theories for how Adam's fall became our fall.
All right. First up is Theory 1, which poses a really fundamental question. Was the whole story just a personal myth to begin with? So, the myth theory suggests that the Genesis account isn't literal history. In this view, Adam and Eve are symbols, and the story of the fall is really a parable. The moral lesson? That every single one of us is our own Adam. Sin is a universal problem, they'd say, because every individual has their own personal, private fall from innocence.
Now, you can see the appeal of this theory, right? It totally gets God off the hook for punishing us for someone else's mistake. But the problem is, it fails to explain the core issue. Why does everyone fall? I mean, if we're all born neutral, shouldn't at least some of us manage to stay perfect?
And this quote from R.C. Sproul just nails the statistical problem. If billions of people were born without a corrupt nature, you just expect by pure odds that a certain percentage would choose correctly. The fact that, biblically speaking, everyone sins, well, that suggests there's something much deeper going on than just a bunch of individual choices in a vacuum.
Okay, our next theory takes a completely different and frankly pretty mind-bending approach to the whole problem. This one is called the realist view. And it argues that we're held accountable for Adam's sin because, in a very real sense, we were there. The idea is that our souls actually pre-existed our bodies and were present in the garden participating in the sin right alongside Adam. It wasn't an act done for us, it was an act done with us. Now, support for this idea often comes from the New Testament. The author of Hebrews argues that Levi, who was Abraham's great-grandson, symbolically paid tithes through Abraham because he was still in the loins of his father. Realists look at this and see it as biblical proof for the pre-existence of the soul. However, there's a really crucial detail here that you can't miss. The biblical text itself qualifies that statement with the phrase, so to speak, which is a huge indicator that this is a figure of speech, a manner of speaking, not a literal declaration that Levi's soul was actually existing at that moment. And this brings us to our third and final theory, which offers a powerful alternative. It's known as the federal or representative view. In this view, the key is in Adam's name itself, which can mean mankind. He stood as the federal head, a single representative for the entire human race. So when God tested Adam in the garden, he wasn't just testing one man, he was testing all of humanity through him.
The easiest way to wrap your head around this is with an analogy. A nation sends a diplomat to sign a treaty. That one signature binds the entire country, for good or for ill. In this view, Adam was our diplomat. His actions had cosmic consequences for every single member of the human race.
And here it is. This is the obvious objection, the one we all feel, right? We didn't get to vote for Adam. So how is it just, how is it fair for us to be bound by the decision of a representative we didn't choose?
Well, the answer to that question is, it's pretty profound. You're right, we didn't choose him, but an all-knowing, perfect God did. The argument is that God's choice of a representative for us is infinitely better, infinitely more perfect than any choice we could have possibly made for ourselves. This quote makes a stunning point. It argues that the very act of us questioning God's fairness, of rebelling against his decision, is the exact same rebellious nature that Adam displayed. In a way, our protest just confirms how accurately he really did represent us. So let's just recap real quick. You have the myth theory. Adam is a symbol of our own fall. You have the realist view, our souls were literally there, and you have the federal view.
Adam was our divinely appointed representative.
So why does all this complex theology actually matter? Because it's absolutely essential for understanding salvation. It frames God's plan not as a setup to force people to sin, but as a rescue mission for a humanity that he knows is already fallen. Adam's fall was his own choice, not some divine trap.
And that leaves us with a final, really challenging thought. The entire system of representation, both for the fall through Adam and for salvation through Christ, it really hinges on this one question. If your eternal fate was on the line, who would you trust to choose your representative? Yourself, with all your limitations, or a perfect, all-knowing God? It's a question worth pondering,